In the world of Jujutsu Kaisen, curse techniques reign supreme. People fight with punches and kicks or even domains, but the most crucial weapon to a sorcerer is their curse technique, as that is what they use the most in their fights. I have already done a top 10 domain ranking recently on the channel, so now I think it's fitting to do a top 10 strongest curse techniques. First, I want to say if you enjoy JJK content, then I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to the channel, as I'll be posting videos every couple of days on different topics that you guys recommend me and a few of my own. Now let's get into the ranking. Before we get into the top 10, I think we should start off with honorable mentions, as these are people who I think didn't make the top 10 but should still be brought up anyways as sort of, an honorable mention. And the first honorable mention will be Boogie Woogie. Now, the thing with Boogie Woogie is I believe that it is better, depending on if you're in a teammate scenario. Like if you have Toto on your team and you're jumping somebody, if you have two people like he did with Yuji, he can just clap everywhere and y'all can switch and disorient the opponent. If you have three people on your team, you can constantly swap with the three of you. So that is good in a teammate scenario, but the reason I don't have it in a top 10 is because in a 1v1 scenario, the curse technique isn't as strong. It's one of those curse techniques that is more of like an assist than like a strength thing on its own. And for that reason, I have Boogie Woogie in the honorable mention. The other curse technique that I will have in the honorable mention is Kashimo's, and that is because we don't know what it is yet. But it would be sort of disrespectful to not put his curse technique in a top 10, as it is sort of portrayed that his curse technique will be in this top 10 level. He's saving it to fight Sukuna, and we know that he was even able to fight Hikari with just normal curse energy attacks without even using his curse technique. And then we know that his normal curse energy attacks have a can't miss factor to him. And then, he was able to take off some of Hikari's limbs. So his curse technique definitely is going to be very strong. And the third honorable mention will be Arame's ice technique. Now, the ice is able to freeze, everybody when they're fighting against Kenjaku. After Yuji just got done beating Mahito and now Kenjaku's fighting Jujutsu High, Arame is able to freeze everybody. And then, Kusakabe, who is a grade 1, says that this person's curse technique is on another level. So you can, take that as you want to, but I don't think it's enough to, fully cement Arame in the top 10 for curse techniques. And with that being said, let's get into who I have at number 10, and that is Uro's Thin Icebreaker. Now, the thing with Thin Icebreaker is that, she bends the sky. She can use the sky as her attack. She bends the sky basically, and when she releases it, it sends a shockwave forward to launch the opponent. We see that she's actually able to catch Yuta a couple times and send him flying. And then we also see that she's able to disorient his arm. But Yuta says that, that doesn't even really hurt. But the Thin Icebreaker part is what does hurt. So we also see when Yuta summons Rika and he goes to punch Uro, Uro is actually able to cancel out this punch with a Thin Icebreaker. So, it's not just a fully let me send somebody flying curse technique. It can also be used for defense, like what she did with Yuta in that moment. Now, yes, Uro does, get spliffed before we get to see more of the technique, but it is a very strong technique for the short amount of time we see it used, as you can use it to put distance between you and the opponent. You can also use it as sort of a shield, and you can also use it as a defense. So for that reason, I have Thin Icebreaker at number 10. And at number 9, of course, I will have Granite Blast. Now, the thing with Granite Blast is that it sort of has an inconsistent strength to it. And what I mean by this is when he uses Granite Blast as Yuta is flying towards him, it actually chars Yuta's hand. But other moments when he uses Granite Blast, it sort of doesn't hurt Yuta's hand at all. Like Yuta can just block it with his hand and there's no markings. But then, when he's up close, it does then char Yuta's hand. So it seems that Granite Blast is, of course, stronger when you're closer to the opponent. So even though we know that Ryu does have the highest curse energy output in history, it sort of depends on where you are in relation to him during the fight. As the closer you are, the stronger the Granite Blast will be, but the further away you are, you can sort of just block it with your hand. So for that reason, it is sort of like inconsistent with strength. We also know that, like I said, it was able to char Yuta's hand in one scenario, but in the other, he was just able to block it. And then we see that Rika is just able to block the Granite Blast, but Ryu is able to punch Rika so hard that he sends her flying both times. So it's like, his punches are stronger than his Granite Blast. The most impressive thing Granite Blast does is sort of take him out at the end of the fight. But then again, he was off guard as he didn't know that this was coming, so you can sort of take that as you want. Then we even saw when he was on the rooftop and shot his initial Granite Blast, when Uro spun the blast back towards him, he just got back up and says, "Oh, I've never been hit with my own curse technique. Sure, Pat's a wallop." So it's like, yes, sure, it's a strong technique, but we see that in some scenarios, it just doesn't even really hurt the opponent as they can just block it. And for that reason, I have Granite Blast at number 9. Now at number 8, we have Idle Transfiguration. And that is Mahito's curse technique where he can change the shape of somebody's soul. Yes, this curse technique is extremely broken, but to get the most out of it, you actually have to touch the opponent. And that's the only really downside. If you're much faster than the user, then you really don't have to worry about Idle Transfiguration as you can just, dodge all of their hands and just beat them up with your own curse techniques. But when you do get touched by somebody with Idle Transfiguration, you're completely screwed. Depending on how strong you are, maybe even one touch is enough to transfigure your soul. Like we saw when Mahito was fighting Nanami in the sewer, one touch was not enough to take out Nanami, because Nanami was subconsciously defending his soul with curse energy. And then we saw when Mahito was going to fight Todo, even Mahito himself wondered if one touch would be enough to transfigure Todo. So, definitely the strength of the opponent depends on how fast you get transfigured or how many touches it takes to transfigure you. So that is the only really downside with Idle Transfiguration. But if he does land his palm on you and you're not strong enough to resist the first hit, then you are completely screwed the first second he touches you. And even if you can withstand, one hit of Idle Transfiguration, the second one should be more than enough. So when he does get his hands on you, he sort of has this durability negation where he goes for your soul directly. So even if you do have a strong outer body, he can just go straight to your soul. And once he touches your soul, you're pretty much screwed. So for those reasons, I have Idle Transfiguration at number 8. Now at number 7, we have Curse Spirit Manipulation, which is Suguru Geto's technique and also now used by Kenjaku. Now the thing with this technique is that the strength of the technique depends on the curses that the user has at his disposal. Now we know that Geto had a bunch of lower grade curses and he also had a few special grades. But even then, if you're fighting a strong enough opponent, then it really does not matter. It's better to just fight with your own strength. And we see that Kenjaku actually gets pushed to this point while fighting Yuki, as Yuki is able to just destroy all of the curses with her curse technique. Now the really good upsides for Curse Spirit Manipulation is that it can be used on defense. Like we see when Mai tries to snipe Kenjaku, he just picks up this curse and uses it as a shield of the bullet. So, you can use it as a defensive measure. We also see that when Kenjaku comes across Yuji, he just makes him fall into a hole in the ground because, he has this curse that is a fish beneath the ground. So it is very disorienting to fight as well. We also see that when Kenjaku pulls up on the government in the United States, that he just puts curses on the roof and, wreaks havoc on the army. So it definitely is a strong technique for a mount, if you say. Like during the night parade of 100 demons, Geto just put a bunch of curses in different places. We even get a statement in the fan book that Geto actually had over 4,000 curses and that the amount that he can consume and hold is infinite. So you can take that as you want. He can actually house an infinite amount of curses. But the thing is, and the only downside to this, is that the strength of the curses, it doesn't matter if you can house an infinite amount of curses if they're you're fighting a special grade opponent. So a bunch of weaker level grade 1 through 4 curses basically aren't going to be of use. But I will say this, if you're fighting like a grade 1 opponent, then Curse Spirit Manipulation definitely is the strongest curse technique for you. But there's not just grade 1 opponents. We have sorcerers out here like Ryu, Uro, Kashimo, Hikari, Yuta, Gojo, etc. So these people just wouldn't get beat by grade 1 curses. They're all a spectacular sorcerers who have shown and displayed a level of skill above just a normal grade 1 sorcerer like Todo or Naobito. So yes, even though Todo and Naobito might struggle to Curse Spirit Manipulation, somebody like Kashimo, for example, would just blast through all of them. And for that reason, I have Curse Spirit Manipulation at number 7. Now at number 6, I have Kenjaku's Gravity technique. Now, yes, I would have put this technique higher, but once you see the techniques that come after this, you'll understand. But let's talk about the gravity technique for right now. Kenjaku can basically create a radius around him where everything just gets sent to the ground for about 6 seconds. As when Choso tries to run up on Kenjaku, he just sends Choso to the ground and pins him there with the gravity technique. We also see it's an amazing defense as when Choso lets off some blood manipulation attacks at Kenjaku, he just deflects them with his gravity manipulation. Now, the only sort of weakness is the interval of the gravity. So, Yuki sort of deduces it after seeing the gravity technique used, that she can just fight in between the interval and actually reach Kenjaku. And even though it sort of does work at first, Kenjaku just, works around it and hits her with a tiny Uzumaki to the gut. And then we see that he's actually able to use the gravity technique to split Yuki in half as she hits the ground. But to be fair, Yuki was already hurt extremely by the tiny Uzumaki. It still is sort of, impressive that he was able to split her in half with the gravity technique as she hit the ground. The only other really impressive thing it does is that when Yuki tries to make a black hole to get rid of Kenjaku, he's able to actually use this anti-gravity technique to negate the black hole and live. So yes, for all of these reasons, gravity technique is very broken, but for the simple, weaknesses of the interval and, the deduction that you can do when fighting Kenjaku, it will place at number 6. And that is because the curse techniques that I have coming up next are just extremely broken. Now at number 5, we have Yuki's curse technique, Star Rage. Now what Star Rage does is that she can apply as much mass as she wants to either her Shikigami or herself. And with this, she can ignore the durability of anything. Kenjaku basically says that it's a concept that targets a curse technique. Mass so overwhelming it surpasses anything inside and out. So for example, we see Kenjaku use a special grade curse so he can fight Yuki. But Yuki just applies a bunch of mass to Garuda, which is her Shikigami, and then just kicks it towards the special grade curse, and it just beats the special grade curse in one hit. Yes, this is how strong the mass is. It does not even matter if a curse is special grade. One hit from Yuki's mass is enough to take it out completely. We also see that when she flies towards Kenjaku and punches him, she applies mass to her fist and actually breaks through both of Kenjaku's arms in one punch. And the other very broken thing about this mass technique is that she actually doesn't get any slower from applying mass to herself. Kenjaku even says it himself. So she's just basically able to apply as much mass as she wants into her fist or like her Garuda tool, for example, and just launch them towards you and you have no defense. It ignores the weight of anything inside and out, as Kenjaku says. Kenjaku even says since her curse technique ignores concepts, he can't even use high-grade curse spirits like he did in Shibuya. So we know that none of the curses that he has, none of these curse spirit manipulation tools can work against Yuki's mass, as she would just take them all down in one punch. Now the only weakness I see with this curse technique is that, she has to hit you with, either the tool that she kicks towards you or her fist herself. So sort of like Idle Transfiguration, where if you're just faster than the opponent, then you should be able to, dodge her fist. Now, the other thing with Star Rage is that, the Garuda tool that she has when she kicks it towards you, but we do get this sort of reaction from Kenjaku where he sees it flying towards him. So we do know that Kenjaku probably could have moved out of the way. I'm not saying that he definitely would have been able to, but it seems that he had enough time to react and could have moved if he decided to. So if you are around the same speed as Yuki or, even faster, then if she kicks this tool at you from far away, you should just be able to move out of the way. So it all depends on, how fast you are when fighting Yuki. You can just move out of the way if you want to. But the dangerous part comes if she does get you. If she does touch you, you're pretty much over. If she decides to hit you in your chest, she's going straight through and you pretty much lost the fight. So for those reasons, I have Star Rage at number 5. Now at number 4, at first I wasn't completely sure on where to place this curse technique. But after giving it more thought, I decided to put Yuta's curse technique copy at number 4. Now Yuta's curse technique can basically copy anybody else's curse technique. Now you might be wondering, okay, well, why isn't this number 1? Why isn't this number 2? Well, I can't put copy above the Limitless because you need the 6 eyes for the Limitless. So, of course, he can't just copy the Limitless. Now, the thing with Yuta's copy is that there's a condition that needs to be met to use the copy. And so far, we see that the condition is Rika biting the arm of Uro's, and that is after Uro's arm has already been bitten off. So we don't know exactly what the condition is, but the one time we do see the condition used, it is Rika just biting a loose arm of Uro. So if we take that to be the condition, like you have to bite a broken off limb or you have to bite a loose limb, then this curse technique is very broken, but the condition to meet it is, sort of hard. So what needs to happen for you to steal a curse technique in a fight is that while he's fighting you, he has to have, Rika sort of come up behind you and bite your arm, I guess, and bite it off so that he can now get your curse technique. But once he does, y'all are pretty much on even grounds, because we also know that Yuta has other curse techniques like curse speech. He also copied Juro Shikigami technique, for example, and he even got Uro's curse technique. So we see that he actually is able to use all of these different techniques once he has them. So if you're fighting Yuta and you have stronger curse techniques than the one that he's copied, then you already have the advantage in the curse technique battle, as the curse techniques that he has is dependent on who he's fought in the past. So if he only has, gotten weaker curse techniques in the past, then you're going to be a-okay because your curse technique is stronger. And as long as you ignore or get away from this condition to be met for his copy, then your curse technique won't get copied. As long as you don't get bitten by Rika and, have an arm or a limb bitten off, then your curse technique won't get copied and you should just be able to beat Yuta to the ground, assuming you have the strength to do so. But for the curse technique copy itself, ignoring the strength of Yuta, but just the curse technique itself, it is good, but also is very weird for that condition. Because, if he has only come across weaker sorcerers in the past, then, he would only have these weaker curse techniques to copy. So this copy technique really depends on the strength of the user. So you can't really gauge the strength of copy, but more so the strength of the user, because if somebody really strong like Yuta has a curse technique, then of course somebody as strong as Yuta can go around, beat a bunch of people and take their curse techniques. But if you give this copy technique to, a weaker person, then it's basically useless, as they won't be able to beat anybody up and copy their curse techniques. So for all the curse techniques that I've listed so far, these curse techniques on their own are just broken, like Idle Transfiguration, Curse Spirit Manipulation, Gravity, and so on. But Yuta's curse technique copy is more dependent on the user. Like I said, if I'm a grade 2 sorcerer, what am I going to do with copy? I'm not going to get any good curse techniques because I won't be able to beat anybody grade 1 or special grade, and I won't be able to get their curse techniques. So copy will just be useless in my hands. You sort of see what I'm saying. But if I am very strong in a special grade level like Yuta, then copy is very good for me because I can copy grade 1 people's curse techniques and so on. So for that reason, the reason that the strength of copy is really dependent on the user, that I have to put it at number 4. I can't really put it higher than this for that reason alone. But I will say this, if you are strong enough and you can go around copying strong people's curse techniques like Yuta can, then the curse technique is very broken. And for those reasons, I have rightfully put copy at number 4. Now at number 3, I have the 10 Shadows technique. I know the first thing you're thinking about is, what has Megami done so far that makes you put 10 Shadows this high? But it's not what Megami has done, but more so what Sukuna has done in the recent chapters and what we get knowledge on from Gojo. Gojo gives a recount in the past of how the head of the Zenin family and the head of the Gojo family were sort of on equal terms because of this 10 Shadows curse technique. And the head of the Gojo family had, this Limitless technique. Now, at first when we heard this, we thought, okay, well, Gojo's talking about Maharaga. As we see that Maharaga is actually able to give Sukuna a little bit of trouble. Maharaga is able to punch Sukuna so far through a bunch of buildings throughout, the city. Now, yes, Maharaga does lose in the end to Sukuna, but Maharaga is very strong as it adapts to attacks and actually is able to heal from them. So Sukuna did have to use a new flame arrow to take Maharaga down. Now, I am about to say some spoilers. So if you haven't seen the recent chapters, then just skip about 1 minute ahead and then I'll be done talking about them. But for those of you who don't care and just want to know, then listen to this. Sukuna, when he inhabited Megami, was actually able to bring out the most of the 10 Shadows technique. We see that when Sukuna is on the roof, he just summons Nue, and Nue is extremely large. Nue looks larger than the skyscraper that they're on. And we see that Nue looks about 300 meters from tip to tip in size. And then Nue can send down streams of lightning. Imagine just a lightning storm where lightning is coming down all over you, down to the ground. That is what Sukuna was able to do with Nue. So we can only imagine how strong this Mahoraga will be once the true power of the 10 Shadows technique is brought out. This is what Gojo must have been talking about when he said that the 10 Shadows can, compete with the Limitless. If Nue grew about 50 times in size, then how big will Mahoraga be? How strong will Mahoraga be? This is what makes the 10 Shadows technique so strong. This is why Sukuna was so interested in Megumi throughout the story, because when the true power of the 10 Shadows technique is brought out, we get devastating attacks that we have never seen before. Now we also know that the 10 Shadows technique has other attacks like Divine Dog, the Frogs, Nue for support. So the 10 Shadows technique is very versatile. You can fight all over the place with it. So it is a very versatile technique, but in order to fully wield the technique like Megumi hasn't before, we need an extremely strong user. And when an extremely strong user comes out, like I said in the spoilers, we see the true devastating power of the 10 Shadows technique. And for that reason, I have the 10 Shadows technique at number 3. At number 2, we have Sukuna's curse techniques Dismantle and Cleave. Now the reason Dismantle and Cleave are so strong is because of their versatility. Cleave adjusts to the curse energy amount of the opponent and then just cuts them down. And the Dismantle is just a normal slash that would more so work on inanimate objects like buildings and so on. So we see that Sukuna can actually send out these attacks, can send them flying. And we see that they're so fast that Jogo just got his head chopped off before he even knew what was really happening. And this is very impressive because, Jogo should have very fast perception speed and is very fast himself. Because, we see that Naobito is ranked as the second fastest Jujutsu sorcerer behind Gojo. So, Naobito is the second fast sorcerer level. And then we see that when Naobito is fighting Dagon sort of compares Jogo to Naobito in speed. Dagon says, wow, this guy is fast. He might even be faster than Jogo. So it's like Dagon's not even really sure if this second fast Jujutsu sorcerer is faster than Jogo. And this Jogo, who's supposed to be extremely fast, got perception blitzed by this slashing technique from Sukuna. These slashing attacks are even more broken when Sukuna is up on you, as we see that when Sukuna decides to take the fight with Mahoraga serious, he gets up on Mahoraga, places his hand in front of him, and then Sukuna just lets off a bunch of slashes in different places, basically dismantling Mahoraga basically. He can literally cut somebody into hundreds of pieces in one go. You cannot really escape this curse technique either because, it does travel at extreme speeds. So when he does let this fly off at you, you don't really have a lot of time to react to it. And then when he does get up on you, you're basically screwed as your body will be cut into hundreds of pieces. So with other curse techniques, you actually have, a chance of survival. Like if you take Kashimo's curse energy attacks, for example, they take your limb off. If you look at other curse techniques like Megumi's Divine Dog, or if you look at curse techniques like Granite Blast or Thin Icebreaker, you can really survive a couple of hits from these different curse techniques. But if you get hit by Sukuna's slashes, you are done for, especially if he's going for the kill. The reason that, Jogo doesn't get taken out is because Sukuna didn't want to kill him. Sukuna only wanted to take the top of his head off. But we see that one attack that he hits Mahoraga with, where he basically cuts Mahoraga in 100 places. This is a devastating blow. There's no coming back from this like those other curse techniques that other sorcerers have. There's no healing from this with reverse curse technique. Once you get hit with a curse technique like this, like these slashes at 100 different points on your body, you're done for and you're out of the fight. You lost. And for that reason, I have Sukuna's slashes at number 2. Now, of course, you know who I have at number 1. And the reason that I have the Limitless curse technique at number 1 is because of the brokenness of the defense and offensive strategy with it. This is the best curse technique for defense and arguably the best curse technique for offense. So of course it goes at number 1. The Limitless technique allows for Gojo to have infinity, which is basically a barrier of sort between you and him. He creates an infinite amount of distance between you and him. So if you try to hit him with an attack or try to hit him yourself, you just will never be able to reach Gojo. This is the most broken defense we see in the Jujutsu Kaisen world. And then he has red and blue, the power to attract and the power to repel. These attacks on their own are extremely strong. We see that Gojo in hidden inventory is able to send Toji flying with red, and then we see that he's able to clear a bunch of space around him with blue. But the most devastating attack of the Limitless comes when he combines both red and blue together and creates this imaginary mass that rushes forward, and that is called purple. Purple seems like a sort of durability negation. It doesn't matter how strong you are, it sort of just tears your cells apart. As we know that the Limitless actually does affect things on a cellular level. So when he sends forward this purple, it's not even like it's pushing you back like red. And it's not even like it's pulling you forward with blue. It's sort of doing it simultaneously as it is the combination of red and blue, and just sort of rips you apart. There's nothing you can really do to it. And that is why we see Hanami try to run as soon as Hanami sees it. But Hanami gets hit anyways, and it takes Hanami's side completely off. And then we see in hidden inventory, when he lets purple go at Toji, it just takes Toji's side off as well. Toji was able to tank a red. When Toji got hit with red, he was able to get back up. But purple is in a completely different league. Purple completely took Toji down. One hit from purple took Toji out of the fight and led to Toji's death. Because of these abilities, because of this infinity, because of this blue and red and purple, Limitless just has to be at number 1. There's no other way that I could put any other curse technique above Limitless for this 10 out of 10 defense and 10 out of 10 offense that it supplies. As other curse techniques may have a 9 out of 10 offense, but they don't really have a great defensive strategy, this curse technique has the best defensive strategy with it, the infinity, and then the purple. So this curse technique has to go at number 1. If you disagree with the ranking, or you have a better ranking of your own, or if you think that some people should have been swapped around, then let me know in the comments below, as I do read comments and I am down to hear all of you guys out. So just let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, then please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Stick around, as I'll be uploading videos every couple of days on different topics that you guys give me, and a couple topics that I come up with myself. Thank you for watching. See you next time.